So, can Georgia reclaim their throne at the top of the mountain? Let's discuss right now. Welcome back to Maximum Sports Network. I'm your host, Brice Trammell, and let's jump right into it. So first, let's go over their schedule. I don't see any teams on their schedule that I think they lose to. I think they have an undefeated regular season and will march right into the playoff. And with the expanded playoff, even with one loss and maybe even two losses, they're still going to get in. But there are three games that I think they'll have some trouble with, and that is Alabama, Tennessee, and my hot take, Clemson. So I'll go over Alabama and Tennessee first, and then we'll discuss the hot take a little bit later. Alabama. We all know Nick Saban retired over the offseason, and I don't think they can beat Georgia even though it's at their own home turf. Alabama does not have the receivers that they did last year. Now, granted, they do have Jalen Milroe back. He was very consistent down the stretch. So I think the game can be won by them if they stick to their running game and let Milroe use his legs on a couple plays. But I still don't think they have that much of a chance of beating Georgia. Because if we go over to the quarterback side of the Georgia Bulldogs, they are getting their starting quarterback back, Carson Beck, who threw for 3,941 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions with a QBR of 86. That is very consistent numbers, great numbers even, and they're going to really let him loose this year. I think he's going to have a spectacular season, but one thing that Georgia is going to have to figure out how to compensate for is the loss of Brock Bowers at tight end. That was a very consistent threat for them. Oscar Delp will probably replace Brock Bowers. He has 24 catches for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is not going to be the same player as Brock Bowers, who is an elite talent. And also, Georgia's got to figure out things with their receiver room, and let's go into more depth with those. Their three best returning starters is Dominic Lovett with 54 receptions, 613 yards, and 4 TDs. He's going to be their main guy, I believe, there this season. With Ra Thomas, 23 receptions, 383 yards, and 1 touchdown. Those two guys, I think, are going to helm most of the production. And I know Georgia picked up some recruits in the portal, but those guys are going to be their main weapons for Carson Beck to throw to. Moving on to the other side of the football, the defense. Georgia's defense has always been good since Kirby Smart got there. That has been their centerpiece, and what they thrive on is their defensive pressure and skill set and just athletic ability at the defensive side. Their linebacker room is going to be stacked. You got Shmuel London, C.J. Allen, Braylon Wilson, and Troy Bowles. There's going to be your star linebackers on the inside. The defensive line is also going to be incredibly strong this year, so they are going to be a force to block. It's going to take everything out of offensive lines to block this group whenever they are all on the field together. I think that most teams will struggle with that, and Georgia will be able to put a lot of pressure on certain teams that don't have a good offensive line, such as Clemson. Clemson, I know I said earlier that they had a chance of beating them. And I only say that because the game takes place in Week 1. Week 1 games are always kind of question marks on which people are going to be the guys for each team, who's going to be your playmakers, who's going to be your consistency. But Clemson's defense is going to be really good this year. And I think they will hold Georgia to limited numbers on offense. And the game is going to be quite close. People aren't projecting that. They think it's going to be a blowout. I believe that it's going to be quite close. I do think Georgia still walks away with a win there. Overall, this Georgia Bulldogs team looks very strong this year. I don't see who they lose to in the regular season. I think they're going to march right into the playoff and probably have a very good shot of winning the national championship. What do you guys think? Do you think they'll be there, or will they suffer another loss late in the season?